They say first impressions matter. But sometimes, it's not the first impression that stays with you, it's the first crack in the mask. I was just looking for a good night. A decent guy. Maybe even a spark of something real. But instead, I got laughed at. Not because I said something funny, but because I dared to have ambition. This isn't just a story about a bad date. It's a story about being underestimated, and how I turned one man's condescension into a personal victory. Quiet. Calculated. And permanent. Let me take you back to where it all started. My name is Erica Morgan. I'm 30 years old. I work full-time as a dental assistant, but that title doesn't capture half of what I do. I'm the first person in my family to finish college. The one who helped raise my siblings. The one who worked nights at diners while pulling straight A's in school. I've never had the luxury of relying on anyone else. Independence isn't just something I value, it's something I've earned. Since I was 17, I've worked my way through everything. From being a receptionist at a grimy dental clinic to assisting in surgeries, learning the tools, understanding the business, and saving every penny I could. Because my dream? It's simple, I want to own my own dental practice someday. Not just a little room in a strip mall, I mean a full-fledged, family-oriented, top-tier clinic. Staffed, safe, modern. A place that feels like mine. But dreams like that take work. Years of planning. Sacrifice. Grit. And I was ready for all of it. So when my coworker Hannah told me about a guy she knew, her fiancé's friend, actually, I was cautiously optimistic. She said his name was Taylor. That he was charming, ambitious, worked in finance, owned a condo downtown, and liked hiking. That last part felt oddly specific, but I didn't ask. We talked a bit over text. He seemed normal. Witty, even. Not too intense. Said he admired women who were driven, used the word empowered, which, in hindsight, I should have flagged as performative. Still, I agreed to meet for dinner. It had been a while since I put myself out there. The restaurant was a mid-range Italian place, cloth napkins, but nothing intimidating. I wore a dark green wrap dress. Simple, elegant. He showed up wearing a blazer over a graphic tee. I wasn't sure if that was a red flag or just millennial fashion. The first 10 minutes? Pleasant enough. He made a joke about how overpriced the wine list was. I laughed politely. We talked about weather, mutual friends, a movie that had just come out. And then, came the moment. I mentioned that I was saving up to open my own dental practice. That I wanted to eventually offer pediatric care and adult sedation services. He set down his fork, chuckled, and said, "Careers are just a phase for women. You'll get over it when the right guy comes along." At first, I thought he was joking. So I paused, giving him that polite, confused smile. "Are you serious?" I asked. He leaned back in his chair, grinning like he'd just said something clever. "You know I'm right. Most women just work until they find someone to take care of them. Nothing wrong with that, it's biology." I blinked. My stomach flipped. But I stayed calm. I didn't want to overreact. So I asked. "And until then, we're just playing pretend at being professionals?" He shrugged, clearly doubling down. "I'm just saying, once you have kids, you'll see. You'll want to stay home. It's natural." Natural. That word rang in my ears like a slap. Natural. As if all my ambition, all my work, all my dreams, were just placeholders until I got pregnant. There's a lot I wish I had said in that moment. A clever takedown. A feminist manifesto. Something to make the restaurant go quiet. But all I did was stand up. I looked at him, grabbed my purse, and said, "Okay. Yeah. No." And I walked out. I could feel the heat rising in my chest as I exited. I didn't even wait for the valet. I just walked 3 blocks until I found a busier street, then called a car. The driver must have sensed something. He didn't talk. Just turned up the radio a little and gave me silence. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was hurt. But because I was angry. Angry at him. Angry at Hannah for setting me up with him. Angry that I wasted an evening on a man who thought my life's work was disposable. But more than anything, I was angry because it wasn't new. I'd seen that look before. That dismissive, smug expression from bosses, patients, even classmates. This wasn't just about one guy. This was about the bigger thing. The way women are taught to be proud, but not too proud. Ambitious, but not intimidating. Independent, but still marriageable. I was tired of it. And I wasn't going to let this slide. When I got to work Monday morning, I wasn't sure if I should say anything. I didn't want to make drama. But Hannah spotted me in the break room and smiled like nothing had happened. "So, how'd it go?" she asked, sipping her iced latte. I paused. "Honestly?" He told me women's careers are just a phase and I left. Her smile faded into a frown. "He what?" I repeated it. Word for word. She stared at me like I'd spoken another language. "Okay, yeah, that's not great," she muttered. But maybe he was nervous. Or trying to be funny. I shook my head. It wasn't a joke. He doubled down. He really believes women are just waiting to be rescued. Hannah didn't defend him again, but she also didn't apologize. She just said, "That's disappointing," and changed the subject. But word got around. Quietly. Our office wasn't huge, and people love gossip, especially when it comes with wine-fueled dinner dates and dramatic exits. One of the hygienists, Lacey, whispered to me, "You walked out?" Like, mid-date? Queen behavior. I laughed. A little. But then a patient, an older man who'd been coming in for years, said something like, "Heard you walked out on a man just for having an opinion," and suddenly, I wasn't amused. It was spreading. But worse, it was being spun. I wasn't the girl who stood up for herself, I was becoming the girl who couldn't take a joke. And that didn't sit right with me. That Friday evening, just as I was closing up the front desk, my phone buzzed. A message. From Taylor. "Hey. Sorry if what I said offended you. I was just being real. No hard feelings. But you probably overreacted. Just saying, Saying. Like we were buddies who disagreed over a sports team. Not someone who insulted my entire identity." I stared at the message. Read it twice. 3 times. Then I did something I hadn't planned on. I screenshotted it. And I sent it to Hannah. "This is what just being real looks like, huh? Just saying, Her reply came quickly. Wow. I had no idea he was still texting you. That's embarrassing. But it wasn't just about her embarrassment. I realized something in that moment. This guy wasn't going to apologize. And he wasn't going to stop running his mouth. So maybe, it was time to use my voice. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to fight. I wasn't going to post some rage-fueled thread or call him names online. That's not me. But what I could do was make sure he never got to hide behind fake charm again. So I drafted a post. Not a rant. Not a smear campaign. Just the facts. Went on a date with a friend of a friend. He told me women's careers are a phase, and that I'd change once the right guy came along. I walked out. A week later, he texts me that I overreacted. So no, I'm not laughing. And I'm not quiet. I didn't name him. But I posted it to a local women's networking group. A private one, hundreds of professionals, business owners, creatives, and community leads. I figured a few people might nod. Maybe a few would relate. What I didn't expect was the avalanche. Within an hour, the post had over 300 likes and 90+ comments. And as I scrolled through them, something became clear. I wasn't the only one. OMG, is this Taylor W? I went on a date with him last year. Same vibes. He told me my startup was a cute hobby. He said I was too aggressive to ever be a mom. Comment after comment, all eerily similar. Different women. Different dates. Same Taylor. And then someone posted a screenshot from Hinge, his dating profile. Same blazer, same grin. Another woman replied with a thread of his texts. He'd sent her a voice memo, slurring his words, calling her a cold little career chick. The group lit up. People started tagging others. A lawyer offered to write a post about digital defamation laws. A therapist chimed in about recognizing microaggressions. And by Monday morning, the story had quietly hit LinkedIn. Not by me. But someone had written a general post about recognizing subtle misogyny in professional spaces, and used the quote almost word for word. Guess who had mutuals with the poster? Yep. Taylor. And guess who reached out to Hannah that afternoon, asking if I'd started this whole thing to ruin his life? Hannah called me that evening. Hey, Taylor's kind of losing it. He thinks you've been spreading stuff about him. I sighed. I haven't said his name anywhere. I know. But apparently, people are connecting dots. And now his boss saw the LinkedIn post. He's nervous. Good. Let him be. But I didn't say that. I just said, well, maybe he'll think twice next time before mocking someone's career. She hesitated. You really shook things up, you know. People are talking. And, honestly, good. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just about him. It was about all of us who've ever been told to smile more. To calm down. To be less. I hadn't just stood up for me. I'd given others permission to stand, too. And that? That mattered. By Thursday, Taylor's office had issued a quiet internal memo, a vague but firm reminder about conduct outside of work. Rumors swirled. He wasn't fired. Not yet. But his charm? His good guy mask? It had slipped. Meanwhile, the women's group had started a private thread labeled Toxic Dates and Red Flags. Women were sharing screenshots, audio clips, and story after story, not just about Taylor, but others like him. It became a digital bonfire. And I wasn't the only one tossing in a log. Hannah even messaged me again. "You started something, Erica." It's like, people needed permission. And I think she was right. Because it didn't stop there. 2 days later, one of the women from the thread messaged me privately. She worked in corporate HR for a regional tech company. She wanted to create a mentorship initiative for young women navigating male-dominated workplaces, and she wanted me to speak. I laughed out loud at first. I'm a dental assistant. What could I possibly say? "You walked out when it counted," she wrote. "That's more than most do." I said yes. Nervously. But I said yes. And then, something even stranger happened. One of Taylor's ex-girlfriends reached out. Her name was Mallory. She told me their relationship had ended over his need to always be the smartest one in the room. And she'd watched the fallout with quiet satisfaction. "He never thought anyone would push back," she said. "You did." Her message ended with, "Thank you. I didn't expect thanks. I didn't do any of this for applause. But maybe the ripple was worth it after all." The event was small, just 30 young women in a conference room with free coffee, lanyards, and hopeful eyes. But when I stood at the podium, I realized my voice wasn't shaking. I told them about the date. The comment. The walkout. But I also told them about the aftermath, the firestorm and the healing. The messages I received. The solidarity I saw. I told them it's okay to leave. To walk out. To not laugh along. To not swallow the comment just to keep the peace. Afterward, a girl came up to me, barely out of college, and said, "That exact thing happened to me last month." I thought I was crazy. I smiled. "You're not crazy. And you're not alone." More emails came after that. More invites. More stories. I wasn't famous. I wasn't rich. But I'd become something I hadn't expected, a voice. And maybe that was enough. A few months later, I found myself being interviewed on a small podcast run by two sisters from the networking group. The theme? Walking out with grace. We laughed, cried, and talked about the power of choosing dignity over drama. Of choosing boundaries over bitterness. One of them asked me, "Do you think you'd ever go on a blind date again?" I laughed. Maybe. But this time, I'm asking the first question. That night, I sat at home, sipping tea, reading another email from someone I'd never met. It was from a woman in Texas. "I heard your story on the podcast. I walked out of a date last week because something felt off. And I remembered you. So I didn't wait for the check. I just left." Another ripple. Another choice. And somewhere across the city, or the country, or the world, someone else was walking out of a situation that didn't honor them. Not because I told them to. But because they finally believed they could. Because once you see that door, once you realize it's not locked, it changes everything. That's the legacy I never planned to leave. But maybe it's the one I'm proudest of.